Special interests. What the hell are they? We hear about them a lot in autism, but what does it mean? What does it look like? Is it just things and objects? Let's have a look. So, we often say that autistic people have special interests. Now, what that means, it means, it's such a vague term, isn't it? Special, some people have problems with, some people use the term passionate interest, or just interest, or intense interest, or I mean, all of these have connotations which I'm not going to touch with any kind of stick or pole or anything of any description. I use the word special interest because, among other autistic people, it immediately says what we're talking about. I think passionate interests doesn't really describe it, if I'm honest with you. But whatever language you use, that's fine with me. A special interest is anything that someone has a very intense interest in. I mean, some people could refer to it as a career or a job or a hobby or anything. It's just when it comes to an autistic person, it generally gets called special. And also, it can be something that's very intense, that's very consuming, that seems to spread out into all sorts of things in life. I mean, it's very useful because it gives you a route into talking and engaging with the person. But the reason why people are more inclined to refer to it as a special interest is because of that all-encompassing nature of it, how they want to do it all the time, and it's very intense, let's say. But as we said, there is a clear advantage to that. I know many people that their special interest is become their work, or it's they form social groups around it. The challenge is, unless you live in a city, sometimes it's hard to find other people that share that kind of interest. It doesn't just have to be about things or objects, though. And this is what I really want to talk about here. You probably already know about special interests, what they are, what they look like, but it's what other things can be in the same category. Now, a young person growing up, rather than having a thing as a special interest, it could be a special person, a person as a special interest. Now, for a young child that's growing up, that could be celebrity, or it could be, a bunch of celebrities and celebrity culture in general, or it could be a close or best friend. Now, that is obviously good in a sense, because having that best friend, it could be intense, and that could be a positive meaning of the word intense. They can find new interests, new joys for engaging the other person. They can express interest and develop, I don't know how to describe this because it's not empathy. That's not the right word, but it's. I think there's another term. Is it compersion? I don't know. You experience joy off another's joy that you care about, that you love, that you feel intensely for. And that's a very nice emotion. I love seeing those I care about happy. In fact, quite often more than my own happiness. So yeah, there's that there. But on the flip side of that, it can be problematic because of that intensity. It means, it may be that they obsess a lot about that person's desires, that person's perspective, perception. It could mean that they don't develop their own sense of identity because so much of their identity is wrapped up in that other person and that other person's interests and doing things that other person wants to do. And it may mean they agree to things they don't want to do because the other person wants to do it. So there may be improper boundaries placed. Which is not good. It's not good moving forward. It's not good because we would hope that someone developing will form their own interest, their own sense of identity. But I don't think it's fully bad if you capture them from someone else. They can form part of your identity as you grow. The challenge, though, is if that relationship breaks down, then there's a sudden massive loss. Not just the person and all the other loss that comes with losing a person, who they were to you, who they were going to be, who they were currently, the plans for the future, who you were to them. There's so much loss there. There's not just the person going. You also then have the loss of all those shared interests, the joy you experience through the other person. And we find a lot of people, as a result of that, they've lost a massive part of their identity. Suddenly they're lost. Self-esteem is gone down the toilet. They're wondering what's going on, what's happened, who am I? And then, lots of things that used to not bother them now bother them. For a young autistic adult, that could be they form a relationship with someone and that new partner is their special person. And when that could be great because they try new things, they come out into the world, they're potentially less anxious with that person, there's enthusiasm, there's emotions, there's passion. It could be a great launching pad almost. The challenge is that if it is very intense, it could mean they cut themselves off from the things they used to love, the things they used to enjoy doing, the people that are already important in their lives, and they become quite obsessed, intense, potentially controlling of that person. Again, we tend to focus on the negative, but there's lots of positives there. I, in my own life, through partners, I have found new interests, new joys. I'm often the person that when I have a new partner, I like to take interest in the things they are interested in. And these can sometimes be things I had no interest in before, or even things I felt negative about. And suddenly I've found new joys and new interests that have persisted even after that relationship has ended. In fact, many of the things I very much enjoy doing right now came from others. In fact, I know that that perhaps even during the relationship I was resistant to some of those things, but now I very much love them, even though those people that I once loved are no longer a part of my life. The challenge is, though, when we think about an autistic person's development and that masking to fit in from a young age, if that then goes into relationships as well, and you're masking to fit in, you're capturing another person's identity points and interests in order to fit with them because you feel very strongly towards them, if you don't form a true sense of your own identity, because it's just another layer to the mask or masking, and when that relationship falls apart, you've lost a huge amount of your identity. And so it's not uncommon for us to hear of autistic people, in their late teens, early 20s, even going through to their late 20s, that they don't have yet a solid sense of who they are and what they love, and even how to practice self-care and self-compassion, because it's always gone through the lens of somebody else. And it can take until older years for somebody to start realizing, this is what's healthy for me, this is what I like doing it, and to actually be able to engage in new relationships and still try and hold on to that sense of themselves and their own loves and their own joys. Because I think for all of us, when we engage in a new relationship, it's fun, it's intense, it's passionate, and we can lose a bit of ourselves. I think that can be part of the parcel sometimes. It takes a greater kind of strength to sometimes hold on to who you are and move forward with that. Some of that does come with age. And if we think about this as well, it's not just a part of autism. This is a part of growing up and not being understood, of having your perceptions and your emotions and your sensations, because they are different than other people, be dismissed quicker. And then you engage in a romantic relationship or a sexual relationship, and it's got a greater intensity to it. It's got lots of emotions, and there's safety, there's moving through your own trauma and discussing it with someone else and feeling bonded and vulnerable. That's all very powerful. That's potentially very healing. And so it's quite understandable that some people might not always look after their own needs, express themselves, and form an unhealthy, intense relationship. But just because that relationship may look unhealthy or intense, it doesn't mean it has to be. I know many people that their partner is kind of their world, and that you can think there's many challenges that come alongside with that, like that intensity, but actually that can be safety, that can be security. And as adults, they've negotiated boundaries, they've had those discussions, those vulnerable moments, and rather than it being all of the the horror stories you maybe imagine, it's actually very sweet, very nice, very supportive, very nurturing. And they still have a greater support network as a result of that. A solid foundation, that consistent, secure, routine partner can actually be the launch pad, that base, that safe space to allow an autistic person to engage with other people, whereas otherwise they wouldn't. Or it can be that safe space for them to feel secure in themselves. It means they mask less with other people. They're more open, they're more expressionate, they're more themselves, they can cope better, they can function better. That partner, that secure base, again, that can mean that consistent home environment, that help when they need help, or that somebody to look after, that consistent responses. That can mean they can deal with all of the rest of life's inconsistencies. So just because a relationship looks intense or seems quite all-consuming, actually there can be a lot of healthy elements there. We're also dealing with individuals that have been through some sense of trauma. So perhaps they might express themselves emotionally with their partner differently, and it might look unhealthy from the outside, but within, we don't know what's been discussed, what the boundaries, how nurturing, what's going on there. And to keep in mind that every relationship is going to have its challenges, it's going to have the journey it goes through, it's going to have its discussions. And that's going to change as those two people grow together and navigate this life. So this is just a bit of a note to say, special interests don't just have to be things, they can be people, and the relationships that people have don't always have to look healthy to be healthy. They are what they are, and we should recognize and respect that.